Die change procedure on the CPM PM7700 with bare claw die clamps. It's important to note that only trained and qualified personnel should change the die on the CPM PM7700 pellet mill. Before you begin, ensure you wear proper personal protective safety equipment when changing a die. This includes safety shoes, gloves, hard hat, safety glasses, and anything else required by your employer. The factory supervisor and anyone in the immediate area of the machine must be informed that a die change is about to take place. Then the plant's lockout-tagout program must be implemented. Before you begin, lock out the pellet mill. Then attempt to start it again to ensure it won't run during the die change procedure. Inspect all hand and air tools, including the die hoist cable. If they are damaged or frayed, do not use. To change the die, open the pellet chamber and place a suitable cover over the discharge opening. Take care, as the die and rollers may still be hot. Remove and set aside the feed cone, which is relatively light and can be easily lifted by 2 people. If 2 people are not available, a strap or hook can be attached to the feed cone and to the die hoist to lower the feed cone to the floor. Loosen the rolls either manually or with the Lineator if equipped. Move the rolls until you have maximum clearance between the die and the roller shells. Turn the roller shafts clockwise to increase the gap away from the die. Rotate the die so that the slots in the quill flange are at approximately 3 o'clock and 9 o'clock. Using a 36 mm socket, remove the M24 bolts on each of the bare claw die clamp segments. Make sure you leave one clamp tight, placed at the 12 o'clock position. After the M24 bolts have been removed, the center nut should still engage the clamp segment. Loosen this center nut with a 50 mm socket. If you encounter resistance, immediately stop turning the nut to avoid breaking the retaining clip. If your clamp has been secured for a long time, it may need to be loosened. Do this by inserting the 24 mm bolts previously removed into the jack holes to loosen the clamp, or use a pry bar at the end of the clamp to pry against the quill flange. When the clamp is loose from the die quill flange, continue loosening the M50 nut until the clamp segment will allow the die to be removed. Once the clamp is loose, turn the large M50 nut counterclockwise to retract the clamp from the die until there is enough clearance for the die to come off. Rotate the die so that the final die clamp segment bolt or bolts can be easily removed. Install the die lifting plate and attach it to the die hoist. Put tension on the die with the die hoist. Once the die lifting plate is attached with tension on the cable, the last 50 mm nut is ready to be loosened. All clamp segments should clear the die. Pull the die out away from the quill flange. You may need to use a pry bar if the die is resistant. The quill flange has 2 slots designed for using a pry bar. Lower the die to the floor and then follow your plant procedure for taking the die away safely. Once everything is clean, verify the quill wear insert is in place. Check the die driving key for signs of wear such as fresh marks, shine surfaces, or significant corrosion. Replace if signs of wear are found. Turn the quill flange so that the key is near the 12 o'clock position. Attach the die lifting plate so that the die keyway is also near the 12 o'clock position. Verify that rolls are at their innermost position by turning them clockwise. Position the rollers for maximum clearance for the die to be mounted. Using the die hoist, lift the die into position and align the key and keyway. Then move the die in place. Looking at the inside of the die, you may need to raise or lower the die to center it on the quill flange. It is often a tight fit between the die pilot and the quill wear insert, So if the die is not perfectly perpendicular to the quill flange, it will take some maneuvering to get it aligned onto the quill flange. If the die is tight, you can hit with a brass bar, a large dead blow hammer, or a heavy block of wood. Do not hit the die directly with a sledgehammer. Once the die is positioned on the quill flange, tighten the die clamp segments with the center nut and then add the M24 bolts with the Belleville washers. Keep in mind that the washer must be touching the die clamp on the outer edges to achieve a spring or tension effect. Both the M24 bolts and the center nut must be torqued to 350 foot-pounds. Go around the die several times verifying the correct torque. Once a click is heard or felt, you have reached the correct torque setting. Do not over-tighten. Once the die is properly mounted, the rolls can be set according to your plant procedures. The feed cone and deflector can then be installed. Since the feed cone is not a machined surface, the deflector should be adjusted to within 1/4 inch of the feed cone. With the hands and fingers on the outside of the feed cone, rotate the die at least one rotation to verify the deflector does not touch the feed cone. Check for and remove any tools, parts, or supplies that are present. Remove the cover plate, then close and latch the door. After removing all locks, the pellet mill should be ready to start.